Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new interview with Mr. Dominic Lewis. Our good friend Dom is back, and we present to you two atheists talking about Christmas movies. So,
I'm sure
Dom,
everyone is so bored of me by now.
no,
They're
are
like,
you
oh,
kidding?
this guy again. What average score has he done now?
No, you're like, you know how like late night talk shows have like kind of like a regular guest that their favorite. I think your Film.Music.Media is like resident favorite guest. So
Oh, I like that spin on it. That's very
yeah,
comforting.
that's
Yeah,
great. So yeah, so you just came off an awesome summer with Bullet Train, and now you're
yeah,
going to take us to the end of the year with two Christmas themed films. I mean, you're a busy
yeah,
bee. So you recently scored Spirited for Apple TV Plus, and now also A Violent Night, starring David Harbour as Santa Claus going on a revenge spree, killing all the bad guys. So you're on both sides of the spectrum here. You have a nice wholesome kind of fun comedy take on a classic tale, and then you have balls to the wall crazy
yeah,
John McClane type stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And I've been in Christmas all year, so
yeah.
it
So
hasn't stopped.
it hasn't stopped for you. You've been in and you're in the festive spirit. You got the nice. You look like the Christmas version of the Big Lebowski. So it's which I love.
Yeah, the Christmas dude. Yeah, I feel like I have to force myself at this point to get into Christmas because I'm so over it at this point.
Before you're
Uh,
over it, I want to talk to you about these scores because they're really great and they're amazing. So I would
Thank you.
love to let's get into it. So
Do it.
and if you're new, if you're this is your first Dom Lewis video on Film Music Media, definitely go back and watch all other 300 of them because so you can catch up. This is we're not going to go back into Dom's past or Dom's path to his career and all that stuff. We covered that so many times. So we're just going to jump right into let's jump right into Spirited first. So yeah, let's talk about this. You're doing a kind of a modern take on a Christmas Carol, a good old
Yeah.
classic Charles Dickens story with Will Ferrell and I
Ryan
am
Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. I was about to say Ryan Gosling. I am now mixed with all my Ryans.
No, the Ryan
The
Gosling's the next one. No,
next
it's Ryan
one,
Reynolds and Will Ferrell and
and Will
Octavia
Ferrell,
Spencer. Yeah, and it's
and it's a musical as well. So the score is awesome because it just feels like a kind of that classic Christmas feel, the Christmas sound. And so, talk to me about working on this film. Not only is it a musical with amazing songs from Benj, Pasek, and Justin Paul, who are of course famous for La La Land, among so many other different things. And so, for a score for a Christmas musical, talk to me about, I guess, the first conversations about what the score needed to do in comparison to what the songs were doing, and the whole thing about telling the whole story. So what was the first talks about music for Spirited?
uh well, originally I thought, oh, this is great. The pressure's off. It's a musical. I don't, no one's looking at me. Um, and that's sort of true to a certain extent. But no, I mean, the score became a real major story enhancer. Sean and as a director was adamant that the hook or the theme needed to be really strong, a real earworm. So that was like out the gates. It was like we need whenever you do a Christmas movie or whenever you're pitching for a Christmas movie, I've found that the line is we really want like a modern Home Alone. We want it to be the new Christmas classic,
Yeah.
which is great. But I mean, the pressure's on as soon as you start like mentioning John Williams. It's like, oh well, okay, no pressure. Um, but yeah, so Sean was really adamant that the theme had to be strong. He had to be able to remember it. So we went through a couple of versions of things that I was like, oh, this is the one, and he's like, nah, I'm not really not really feeling this. I'm not really. It's like it's beautiful, it's lovely, but I'm not remembering it, and I really it needs to be just simple and a strong hook. So I just kind of went super simple and like almost public domain Christmas caroly with it,
Yeah.
um, and just simplified everything down. And it's basically just very simple intervals that are very catchy and very Christmassy. Because when you do Christmas stuff, you're sort of in a box. Uh, there's a certain harmony that invokes Christmas. There's a certain orchestration that invokes Christmas. You know,
Yeah, it's
the
very
bells, the
the bells.
choirs, the celestes. Like, if you don't do that, and especially with this kind of movie, if you don't do that, then you're sort of, well, not only are you missing out on the wonder, but it doesn't really work.
Right.
So the melody was the first thing, and then also it was very important to Sean and Justin and Benj that the themes that from the songs were worked into the score. So I had to come up with harmony and intervals for my score that would work in conjunction with their songs. So
Oh wow.
again, I was sort of put in a box a little bit, but um I just sort of wanted to go. I mean, with both the films, I wanted to just go really nuts with orchestration and just
Yeah.
flex that muscle because you never really get to do it with live action. Um, and especially, I'm switching to the other movie, but with Violent Night, I never get to do like serious just orchestral music. So
And it's a
having come off,
big operatic orchestral score. I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
and coming off the back of like candy canes and like proper Christmas and sweetness, and like it was really good to do that on the flip side. So I
Yeah.
think they're not the same. It would have been very easy to just do two orchestral scores that sound very similar. They've got strong melodies and then call it a day. But um, yeah, it was tricky. I mean, I did Spirited first, so that was like, it was very floral orchestration. Um, I was sort of given the keys to the castle, as it were. I could record anything I wanted. We went to London, a big expensive hurrah in
Yeah.
creating the score. So it's got that very kind of like Hollywood Christmas cinematic thing going on. And then on the flip side, the purse strings with Violent Night were a little tighter. So I had to kind of um, rein that in a bit and figure out what could I record, what's going to be samples, what's going to be orchestra. Um, and we did get to do full orchestral stuff. We recorded most of the score, and some of it was samples. It'd be interesting to see if people can tell what's what. Hopefully not. Um, so yeah, I know we were supposed to be talking about Spirited and my process to that, but it's sort of like because it's been this whole year of Christmas, it's sort of just all blended into one thing, and Spirited sort of um it made my choices easier on Violent Night, and knowing that Violent Night was coming, it sort of made. I'm not explaining it very well, but it's very clear to me what both scores needed to be.
Right.
Um, and going back to the whole musical thing, I think the pressure is off a little bit. It was
Yeah.
it was important for Sean for me to push the story forward and to really connect with the emotional arc of the movie, which is very touching and very sweet. Um, but then again, I sort of had free reign because everyone's focused on the songs.
Right.
I
But
mean,
as a composer, do you feel you said less pressure in the less, but do you feel like as a composer on a musical, do you like, oh, I'm going to be overshadowed by these songs, so
oh
you
yeah, and that's fine. That's the way it should be. That's absolutely
yeah,
fine. If I'm doing my job properly, people should be walking out the cinema humming the songs, not my score.
right.
They should have felt the impact of the score. And if people walk out the cinema humming, then great. Yeah, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
But my role on that one was really to support everything that had already been done and
Mm.
just to bring everything together, whether it be all the songs together, the storylines, the emotion of the story. I was the glue. I was the musical glue between everything, between the kind of the main events. And that was kind of nice because I'd never really done that before.
Yeah, yeah.
And at the same time, I kind of wanted to push myself to really make the most of the time I had because it's a lot shorter time to write stuff. Cues were a lot shorter,
Yeah.
obviously big musical numbers taking up the main real estate. So when I was in, I had to really make an impact. So
Yeah.
it's a completely different discipline, which I really enjoyed.
And for the score itself, what I mean, you mentioned kind of things that made like what makes a Christmas score, but also I think what I love about the score is that it's still warm and it gives you that warm fuzzy kind of Christmas feeling that you're looking for, but
Yeah.
you don't go over the top where it becomes kind of schmaltzy and saccharine and stuff. How was it like? Is it like tricky to find that
I
balance?
maybe did a little bit. You're
But in a
being
good
kind.
way.
You're
No, in a
being
good
kind.
way though. There's like something about Christmas movies where you're allowed to just go a little bit over the top and let
Yeah,
it, you know,
you are.
like fill the mug and it spills over a little bit, just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
night. Yeah,
totally.
yeah, yeah. So
Towards the end, I think I kept the handcuffs on for most of the film, and then towards the end, you wanted to really get him in the heart.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I don't. I thought I went like very over the top on purpose to really like bring home the emotion, but it's nice
right.
that it doesn't come across that way. Um,
I think it's the context. If it was in any other, yeah, if you did like a drama that was not about
right.
all of this stuff and but yeah, but for some reason it just works. And the way yeah, we mentioned the orchestration. Talk about the orchestration because I just had a great conversation with Bears orchestrators about doing the Lord of the Rings show, Rings of Power. So I'm
Right.
curious from the composer side when you're orchestrating your score to get that magical feeling to get those you mentioned the choir, you mentioned there's always like big brass, I think, like you feel that brass there. So what about the orchestration did you want to have this the score to have like?
I basically threw the gauntlet down and challenged myself to show off as much as possible.
Yeah,
It like you've trained at the Royal Academy. It wasn't for nothing. Show your orchestral chops. Show like push the envelope a little bit harmonically, and just kind of show off a little bit orchestrationally on both movies. Um, how floral could I make the woodwinds in this one section and get away
yeah.
with it? How crazy could I make the harmony in this and get away with it? And I'm always a servant to the movie, and the movie always wins. But I was trying my luck a little bit, and sometimes Sean would be like, "No, that's too much. We got to pull that back."
Okay,
Or
yeah,
no, I want more of this, more scurrying woodwinds, more floral stuff. It needs to be more energetic. So it was working with Sean was really, really wonderful. He's so trusting and just like it was easy.
yeah.
Um,
And he must be, I mean, it must be also awesome to be working with the director who's also the writer of the film. He co-wrote with his writing
right.
partner John Morris, and
That's right.
and
Yeah.
so I mean he knows this. He was with this from the script all the way to production. So I'm sure. What kind of feedback was he giving to you that you really kind of fed off of and really worked?
It was like, well, I say it was easy because right from the start, I say that getting the tune was the hard bit. And then
Yeah,
once writing to picture started happening, I think it's what the temp was trying, but obviously with Christmas music, it's really involved. So to temp something, you know, even my score now is moving every however many seconds. So
yeah,
it's hard to to push your story forward. Um, so I think once someone who vaguely knows what they're doing was actually writing to the picture, he was just like, "Oh, okay, this is great." And it was
mm,
like there was never a point where it was wrong. It was always like maybe try this slightly later or slightly before, but he said very early on, I never have to, you get what the scene's doing. I never
yeah,
have to say that, oh, you've sort of missed the point here. We're actually coming from this point of view and blah, blah, blah. So we had an understanding very early on of what the story needed to say, what the emotions were, what the music was trying to do. So that's kind of why I was able to, you know, push it a little bit and see how far I could get with certain things that would never fly with certain people. You
yeah,
know, just like crazy, like even just like the basic principle of using mutes with woodwinds, right? Would be like, oh, what's that noise to some people? Whereas in this scenario, it's like, oh, that's cool, that's quirky, that works, that's great for this little arc. And obviously, you've got the comedy factor, you've got big emotions, you've got some darkness with the ghosts, and it's just you can go anywhere with the orchestra. So it sort of felt like a really nice, specifically spirited, felt like a really nice kind of student exercise in you have these scenes that
yeah,
portray these emotions and these narratives. What is the orchestration that would fit best? And I was kind of treating it like that, and really kind of harking back to my incredible orchestration teacher, Chris Austin, at the academy, all the little tricks he was teaching me over the 4 years, and just kind of, I guess I'm sort of stealing his ideas, but no, he taught me them for a reason. So it's just super fun. It's because you never get to do it. Like you get to do it with
Yeah.
animation, and but yeah, it was a different thing to doing it to a musical and to a live action with actual people, um, and a little bit more adult themes here and there. So I'm going a mile a minute, but yeah, I mean, it was two very similar scores, but also very different when you kind of break it down. So
Yeah, absolutely. And for the as a musical, were the songs already recorded in place when you came onto the project? So was navigating them and finding a flow to make everything, because if the songs are already in place and everything is kind of locked there, as a composer, are you struggling to try to create a flow between the songs and the score, or was it kind of easy the way the songs kind of flowed? You were able to find a natural flow already within the story.
it was it was easy in one way, but in another way, because of that kind of additional composer arranger brain that
Hmm.
I've had in the past, like taking some of the tunes and doing them in a way that are not recognizable to certain people, whether it's because I was being too obscure with it, or it was over the wrong harmony or whatever. I was getting quite experimental with it
Mm.
and working stuff in, thinking, oh, I've totally nailed that. I've got that theme in and that theme, and mine's going over the top, nailed. And then
Yeah.
you get the note. We really want to put some of the song melodies in this, and I'm going, no, but they're in there. You just have to like get it all intertwined, and it's really clever, I promise you. But so the difficult part was being overt with them and making them recognizable, which was the thing
Mm.
that Sean really wanted. So that took us a while to get to too, because I was constantly trying to be too clever and show off
Yeah.
how I weave everything together. But in actual fact, he just wanted like, no, can you just state the melody of Unredeemable, please, so everyone knows what it is and it connects to that storyline.
Yeah.
So yeah, Unredeemable, which is kind of the big emotional number that Will Ferrell sings, and then Do a Little Good, which is kind of the wrap up song at the end. Sean wanted those two themes very much weaved through because they meant the most to the storyline. And then you've got like in the moment songs that weren't as important to weave in. Oh, and there's another song that Octavia sings, View from Here, which is a beautiful song. And so that was kind of easy to weave in because it was very similar. Um, Actually, I'm talking rubbish because I pretty much weaved in every song other than there's a song, I guess it's sort of like past the halfway point, called Good Afternoon, which I'm not going to spoil the whole premise behind it because
Yeah.
it's hilarious. Which I didn't. It's just a one-off like thing that's hilarious, and I didn't have to kind of use that in the score. But I think pretty much everything else. Oh, there's another song, Ripple, that I didn't put in the score either. Um, but it's fun, At first, it's daunting, when Justin rings you up and goes, "Yeah, so we've got these songs, we've got these themes. I really want you to use them." You're like, "Oh God, I hope I do them justice." But yeah, I saw him at the dub stage, and he was like, "Oh, you did a wonderful job. Thank you so much." I was like, "Oh, fine, okay." I didn't piss him off. I didn't
Yeah.
ruin his music.
So you did work with Justin and Paul, Justin and Benj a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, more of kind of a call at the beginning of it when I
Yeah.
signed on, going, "Hey, this is the deal. We're excited." And then it was just like I was just getting on with it, and they were
Yeah.
doing their thing. They were trying to. So all the songs were sort of recorded beforehand, and then they had to go and re-record them. And David Metzger did some incredible arrangements, orchestral arrangements. I mean, the guy
Yeah.
is just off,
David's fantastic. Yeah.
off the charts, amazing, and such a sweet guy. Um, so yeah, the bar was set really, and I had to kind of step up because the songs already sounded super awesome. So then when you're previewing that, you don't want it to be like the programming the programming of your stuff in the preview, like you've got these amazing songs and then suddenly the score's like, oh, that sounds a bit shit. um so yeah, I had to step up the programming chops a little bit, but It was really fun. It was fun. Like I said, the pressure was off, but not really.
Yeah, but yeah, what was like? Tell me about recording the choir because the choir sounded amazing.
The choir was a mixture of boys and a full choir at Lyndhurst.
Yeah.
Um, Now and again, I'd sort of layer some of me in there from the demo if it needed that extra kind of melodrama and stupidity to it. Um, which is hugely different for Violent Night.
Oh yeah.
Um, because there wasn't enough money to do choir. So I tracked every voice on that score is me.
Oh wow.
I tracked up everything from basses to sopranos, all the Christmas carols. That's just like a wall of me. Um, yeah, the Chris like the jingle bells, everything is me singing. So I had to kind of like I was a bit worried. It's like, oh my god, this is like the Dom Lewis show. But I was very conscious of that, so tried to kind of disguise my voice a little bit more than
Yeah.
I normally would.
Well,
Uh,
it's a good segue to Violent Night because
yeah,
you're continuing on with your buddy David Leitch, who's a producer on this film, who directed Bullet Train. So, would you put yourself a lot into that score as well, your vocals? So, I think it's a good
yeah,
it's a continuation of that. So, for a Violent Night, I mean, you are really tapping into kind of those classic Christmas melodies that we all know, and you're
yeah,
kind of breaking them down and just I mean, really just having fun with them. It sounds like. I mean, the score sounded really.
destroying them.
Yeah, I mean, it was really awesome. I loved it because your arrangements of those and the way they fit into the actual body of the score and those, and then of course that we can talk about the song at the end, which is I think a new Christmas classic.
Oh yeah, you know. No,
So
it was
yeah,
cool. As you say, it was a total throwback. You know, the movie
yeah,
itself is Die Hard meets Home Alone. So musically, I was sort of trying to get somewhere close to those incredible two people that wrote those scores. So you got the very kind of like almost sort of classical contemporary style of Cayman mixed with, you know, the Home Alone oh, my brain is gone. Prokofiev side of like Home Alone, and then
yeah.
like me, and then not being able to do any of that and getting anywhere near it. So, and then it, I hope, sounds like me.
It does
Um,
sound like you. I mean, it's a very, I think both, I mean, you said that you're kind of just chasing other sounds and stuff for both of these, but you found a way to, because I just knowing your music, I can hear your melodies in there and I can hear your writing in there, and you're still able to crap those, as you said, the earworm that Sean wanted is there and spirited. And I think there is a Dom personality in A Violent Night very much. So,
yeah, I mean, you know, John, I think I've probably said this before, but you know, when I first started working with John Powell, he was like, I try and sound like my favorite composers, you know,
yeah.
Stravinsky, and I don't get anywhere near it, and that's my sound. So I sort of adopted that, um, and it was Violent Night was so much fun to do because you could be ridiculous.
Yeah,
You
it's a
could,
operatic
it's
score. I mean, it's big. Like you go
it's
big.
it's big, and you know what? We had very limited time on the scoring stage. We had a much smaller orchestra than we did on Spirited, but those guys played their socks off. I mean, we recorded all of that in I want to say 3 sessions. Everybody in the room. Um, Anthony Pantner conducted, who it was just amazing with everyone and just like kept it going, and it was so much fun, and it felt like the rawness of the way we recorded it really like really helped gel to the film because the demos were great and everything, but you know when you've got very orchestral music as a demo,
Yeah.
you go straight to Hallmark straight away,
Yeah.
especially when it's Christmas.
Yeah.
So I've fought very hard to be like, guys, we really have to record this, even if it's not everything. We've got to record some stuff, and you know, Universal were great, and they agreed, and we got to record it. But it is like, you know, it's balls to the wall. It's like everything was like one take, two takes, and like, okay, let's move on. We don't have time. Let's go. And I really feel that energy, and everyone feeding off that energy just stepped it up a notch. Like when you listen to it, it's got that like, oh, let's go feel to it, which is exactly what the movie is.
I mean, it's also a testament to the director Tommy Wirkola. He's fantastic,
Oh,
and you
love
know,
Tommy.
Tommy is fantastic, and people have seen, and he's kind of, it's very much his visual style too. Because if you look at the Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunter, which Otley scored back, a while ago, and there's something about his style that really is awesome. And then I think your sound was a perfect match for that. It brought kind of this like traditional, classic, almost fairy tale esque type thing, and then just but it was like the rock and roll version of just like or rock and roll orchestra, just like dial it
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. It's funny because when I originally started, Kelly called me and she said, "We've got. I want you to meet Tommy. I think you'd be a really, really good match for this movie." And I love working with those guys, so I was in already. Then I read
Yeah.
the script and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool!" And then only really having experienced Dave and Kelly, and from the script to a certain point, I was like, "Oh, I need to like figure out a new way of doing Christmas and make it cool and have it like synths and guitars and just like really mix it up and do the thing that I sort of did on Bullet Train." And then I and then David and Kelly were going, "Yeah, I really think, I think a classical kind of thing, more kind of throwback thing's going to work." And I'm going, "Yeah, yeah, but I think maybe we should try and push the boat a little bit and like see what happens." And then I watched it and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so wrong." This and I tried for about half an hour and went, "This is not gelling at all." Put
Yeah.
the guitars away, turn the synths off. I was like, "This is going to be a straight up throwback 90s orchestral score, and that's what it needs to be." And I'm going to use tons of Christmas carols for the wink, and I'm going to write my main melody and then rely on Silent Night and a bunch of other public domain stuff, and really kind of push those to a new like level of weirdness. Um, and
But
it
you still also
immediately just
managed, you
felt,
managed to get the warm fuzzy feeling too. I mean, there's still, you still have the
yeah,
Christmas warmth in there somehow.
yeah, and
Sorry,
actually
I
without,
cut you off.
no, 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 not at all. No, no, you're absolutely right. And the majority can't talk. The majority of the time without sleigh bells, which
Yeah.
I mean, there's sleigh bells kind of buried in there, but they're not so overt. And
Right.
obviously, if Santa Claus is flying around or he's like it's very Christmassy, then the bells come out. But the rest of the score does feel kind of Christmassy without that very overt like Celeste bells thing going on. It's
Yeah.
mainly, and I think it's because of the strength of those public domain Christmas carols. Everyone's grown up with them, so it's like the familiarity, but yet like sort of what the hell? That sort of sounded like whatever. We wish you Merry Christmas, but so weird. But it just goes by, and you just kind of digest it, and by the end,
Yeah.
you get a big warm ending, and I don't know. It's super fun to be able to just play with the orchestra because I have you don't often get a chance to do it. It was really nice for the cool hat to be put on the stand and the pressure to be. I don't have to try and be cool anymore. I can just write orchestral music with strong melodies that evoke the right emotions and the right story points. And I can go back to why I started doing this in the first place. The
Yeah.
guys that I was listening to the classical music I grew up with, and it was just a really nice. Although being stuck in Christmas for 9 months was kind of hell, writing the orchestral music was fun.
But it must have been cathartic too, just to be writing an ultra violent Christmas film, just after going from Spirited and then just letting it go unleashed to finish off the
Yeah,
year for
well,
you.
I think that's what made it possible. Because yeah, as we said earlier, they are both orchestral Christmas scores, but they're
Yeah,
very different. And
very different.
the films are very different. And honestly, Dave Harbour is. I'm gonna put my flag in the whatever and say that he's the best Santa Claus to date.
Yeah,
He's so good as Santa. I guess it's because he's sort of a bitter, like jaded Santa that's
yeah.
like
He,
drinking and beating the crap out of people. But he just seems so believable, and that's another reason why I couldn't go with the synths and the guitars. And like, I think if it had been a guy that was dressing up as Santa and beating the crap out of people,
yeah,
different story. But because he is actually Santa, and there is that Christmas magic to
yeah.
him,
Some honesty there that you have to tap into. Yeah,
I had to acknowledge that, and we had to go with the traditional orchestral way because as I said, I mean, the synths and the guitars and all the coolness was just, it was like you just sort of wince going, that's not working. And so I went with it, and everyone went with it too, which was awesome, because it's quite a hard thing to kind of get by everybody.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
remember in some of the
absolutely.
previews, it was like, oh, maybe we need to try and be more like driving in this, and I was like, and Tommy was awesome because he was like, just let Dom do his thing. It's not he hasn't completely covered the movie yet. You're gonna see once it's done from beginning to finish. There's a whole thought process behind this, and just bear with us. And lo and behold, everyone was like, "Oh yeah." So yeah, it was great. And working with Tommy is awesome. Again, kind of COVID, and they were working in Canada a lot of the time, and
Right.
he lives in Norway, so it was a lot of sort of on Zooms and things. But we did get to hang out, and yeah, I'm looking forward to doing more movies where people are here and we can kind of get back to that again.
Yeah, I think it's like we still have the COVID like lag over. We're talking about stuff that was like done in the past, but now I think as things are normal again, I think you'll get to get back in the room with people and hopefully
Yeah,
back
and,
to the
and
way
these
it should be.
these were the two where I did have a couple of meetings with Sean. I did have a couple of meetings, in-person meetings with Tommy, and it makes a world of difference.
Oh yeah.
It's so much more effective. I can just open up something and just change it, or quickly fix it and do whatever, and it's just better. It's
Yeah.
just way
I
better.
mean it's a collaborative form. I mean, it's a collaborative storytelling is getting in the room together and telling stories as a unit rather than looking at the, this camera right here and just,
Right.
so
Yeah. Or just sending stuff off into the ether and then getting a bunch of notes back. It's like
yeah.
it's just something not very creative about that.
Yeah,
And
reading just text because
everyone's
you're
hands
yeah.
were tied, obviously. Everyone
Oh
everyone
yeah.
was in the same boat, but I think it caused it, and being able to be in recording and just everyone in the room. Like both scores were an orchestra with some mics just playing, no
Yeah.
stems, no stripping of anything down, no, no striping, no. It was like, and each score, both. Well, London's very special because obviously my dad played in the orchestra, and everyone was like so unbelievably grateful to have an orchestra just playing, and the brass were feeding off the strings, which you never get. And the ensemble was just awesome. And then exactly the same thing in LA. It was like I was being thanked by people for putting an orchestra in a room, which is bizarre for film music, for like it to be so rare that they get to be in a room together and play as an orchestra. That to me is wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can you get the best performance possible if you don't do that most of the time? Obviously, certain scores don't call for it. I get that.
Right.
But when you've got, an orchestra playing orchestral like things, put them in a room. Let us do it the way that everyone like harks on about these amazing scores. Yes, obviously the men behind them were incredible geniuses, geniuses, whatever. But at the same time, the performance is everything too. Let's take John Williams, for example. You've got an incredible orchestra all feeding off each other with an
Yeah.
incredible man at the helm of it. No click, streamers, just feeling the music. And I think we've lost that. Film music's lost that. And we've got to get it back, Kyle. We've got to get it back.
Well, I mean, you're
Because
doing it. What?
it is so, like, forget the Christmas side of things. It's
Oh,
so
sure.
magical. It's such a magical experience for people that haven't experienced it. Like,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
a few people involved in both movies. I was like, you should go out into the room and listen to this.
Yeah.
Obviously wanted to show off a bit, like check out my music, but go out and just experience this, and like the smile and the beam on people's faces when they come back into the control room. I guarantee you, it's so different than if they'd just gone out and heard the strings, or they came in the
Yeah.
evening and they went in and they heard the brass.
No,
It's
I
like,
mean, yeah, it's amazing when it all comes together. Yeah.
and that's trust. It's kudos to Sean and Tommy for letting me do it that way. It's ultimate trust to not, it's basically not to not have control over every little thing, and you're
Yeah.
trusting your composer to be like, this is what I think's best. And you've always got fallback. If something's not quite right, you can kind of manipulate mics first of all, and if that's not right, then you can layer in some samples. Don't tell anyone, and you can get by. It's so much more magical when everyone's in the room.
Yeah, I mean, I remember
Not
going.
passionate about this at all, by the way.
Yeah, no, yeah, clearly not. Clearly, you just don't care.
Yeah.
But you know, we've talked about this in the past about how you. I think like one of our first interviews, I always remember you said, "I just wish directors would trust their composers more." And it seems like you've, and I think we probably talked about this on Bullet Train. You found directors that trust you and
Yeah.
allow you to be creative and go shoot big, and then pull you back, reel you back if it's too big, and just experiment and discover what works, because you're never going to hit it on the first try. You're always trying to figure out what's right, and then if you're going to do it right with an orchestra, I mean, being in the room and getting those goosebumps, I mean, that just tells you what it is. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember being at your recording session, for Goosebumps back in the day, and just hearing that
Another one.
orchestra
Yeah.
come together like that, and just yeah, I mean, I would just sit there and I would just stay in the room and just sit there with it, and
Yeah.
not we skip a take and not film it or anything, just absorb it all in. So
Yeah. And I think, I mean, to go back on my previous points from previous years, I think it's not so much about not trusting who you've hired to be a composer. It's more about not trusting the process of
the
like,
process, yeah,
it's more like, oh, but I'm gonna need control over that. I know I will.
yeah,
If you just let go of that and just be like, I've got you. If it's not right, we'll fix it. But trust me, the other way is going to be way better for your film. And
yeah,
I'm telling you, man, every time, I can't tell you the amount of players that come up to me and go, "Thank you so much. This was so much fun." Now they may be kissing my ass, which is fine too. But I don't on the more kind of modern things. I don't get that.
no,
It's
yeah,
like, oh
yeah,
yeah, great score, and then they're off to the pub or whatever. But this one, like, people made a point to seek me out and be like, "Thank you so much. We haven't played in an orchestra for months altogether."
yeah.
Yeah, I'm laboring the point, but I do feel very strongly about it. Because
No, it's a point that needs to be made, because I think we're in this. I think the industry is just getting pushed more and more into commercialization, into creating products, and just almost like a factory, and it just doesn't feel organic sometimes. It doesn't
right,
feel real, and there's still, I mean, there's still magic being made. There's still storytellers that are
yeah,
getting real stuff done, and that's kind of outside of the big studio, bubble and all that stuff. And even within the studio bubble, you can still work within the system and get something really special done. But yeah, I think it's something that needs to be fought for and harder these days. And
I think so. I mean, the
yeah,
players, they play better. More importantly, you get a better product at the end of it
yeah,
because they're all in it and they want to do it. Um, that and letting them go 10 minutes early every session, and giving them alcohol afterwards. It's a. I'm being serious though. It's a huge part. Like,
yeah,
if any composer is watching this and thinking, "Oh, how do I get the orchestra on my side?" I'm telling you from the inside, because my dad was in it for years. If you let them go, Harry Grayson Williams was the king of this, and everyone loves him in the orchestra. You let them go 5 to 10 minutes early every session, and then just buy them all a drink. They're yours. They'll do whatever you want. I promise you. And that's from the horse's mouth. That's my dad's told me that on many occasions. I've got a recording from Spirited where I let the orchestra go. I think it was like 7 or 10 minutes. That's like 7 or 10 minutes. I mean,
yeah,
granted, if you're down to the wire and you need those minutes, fine. But I got there's a little layover of a recording where Caroline Dale, the principal cellist, I let them go. It might have even been 10 minutes, and they were all so shocked. And you can just hear Caroline go, "Oh, his dad would be proud." It does mean that much to them though, because they give their all. They really do. And if they just
yeah.
a little window where they're expected to play and then they don't have to, it's like, oh, great. So there's
I
my
love.
advice.
I just love
There's my
how
advice to everyone recording out there.
your secret, every time we talk about a score, you always have a secret thing to, like, a secret method to do it. It always involves alcohol, because with Bullet Train you're talking about chugging tequila to get your voice in
Oh,
the
that's
right.
true. No, that's very true. No, it doesn't have to be alcohol. It
No,
could
I'm just
be
kidding,
it
but
could
yeah,
be
yeah,
a
no,
sandwich
yeah, yeah, yeah,
or a ginger ale. Just like, it's more about showing that you care about them and you
of
value what they're
course,
bringing
yeah,
to
that
your
they're not
score.
just there
I
as
think,
pieces of your in your tool chest. They're part of the
right.
experience. They are the artists. I mean, no one can play like them. I mean, that's why
No
you have
one.
them. No one.
They're unbelievable musicians, and I think when you tell them that and they feel appreciated and not just like another little bit in your process,
Yeah.
it makes such a difference. I'm sorry, I was hitting the harpsichord there by accident.
Yeah,
um
that's what. Yeah, it's a harpsichord.
um but it makes the world of difference, and that would be
Because they spend their entire lives to their craft, and all these musicians are since childhood playing and practicing, and it's to see their talent come to life like that, especially when they're all together and working off each other and playing off each other, and they're all in the room together. That's why you love going. That's why I love going to live music concerts, and
right.
getting, yeah. So
You're absolutely right. So think about this, right? You're doing a film score. It doesn't need a lot, but it needs strings or it needs whatever. And you put these people have practiced for 8 hours every day for most of their life. They've been in the biggest symphonies in the world. They've played the hardest music on the planet.
yeah,
And then you put a piece of music down in front of them that's literally just footballs. It's long notes for hours and hours because the score needs it, and
yeah,
that's fine. But then if you're then just like slaving away and not appreciating what
yeah,
they're putting into that, can you imagine their brains going, "Oh my God, get me the fuck out of here. I
yeah,
didn't I didn't train to do this." So the least you can do is respect their brilliance and just try and make it easier on them.
absolutely.
Anyway, there we go. There's my tip of the day.
Dom's tidbit. I'm gonna put just a graphic on the screen, but
I'm lucky because I've grown up around it, and obviously
yeah,
Dad was it, and he like the feedback from Dad was just priceless. Um, you know, so there's so many little things you can do when recording that just makes everything just go quicker.
yeah, no, absolutely. And
Don't
I mean,
labor a cue over and over again, and if you do, tell them why they're doing it again, not just like, oh yeah, let's just get another one, because
yeah,
you've got them sitting there going, why are we doing another one?
yeah,
if
I
you
mean,
can
that's good. Yeah,
if you can like you know tell them exactly why it is, and they go, oh, okay, no, I get that. But if they just feel that they're just recessed monkeys, just going through the motions,
well, I
it's
mean,
like
it's as
the
similar as
whole
an
vibe just goes.
actor, yeah, like an actor on set. If you're doing another take, you got to tell your actors why we're doing another take. You have to communicate. They're part of the process too. They're giving you a performance. They're giving,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
absolutely. They're part of that whole process. Yeah,
totally. And if it's not working, take a break or tune or do something to mix it up.
yeah,
Just the constant battering of the same thing. You just got to call it and be like, all right, we'll come back to this. Let's do something
right.
else.
Absolutely. Well, before we wrap up, I do want to talk about Santa Claus has had enough of Christmas, because I think
Oh, okay.
Dom Lewis has had enough of Christmas, it seems like. So I love this song. I think it has like this kind of Beach Boys vibe, but still like I don't know, it was awesome. It was a great way to
All
finish off
over the
that.
place. I don't even know what was in my brain when that happened.
So you wrote this song,
I
like,
wrote I wrote the song, I performed the song. Originally it was supposed to be over an action sequence um towards the beginning of the film, but as much as people loved it, they felt it was a little on the nose. Um and Tommy loved it, but he was just like, I think this other song works better. And that's fine. And so we put it in the end credits,
I
and
think
you'll
it's a
be
perfect way
yeah,
to end it.
everyone will be walking out to the annoying sounds of my voice as you walk out the cinema. But it was really fun, and obviously doing those kind of lyrics and trying to being funny with lyrics as well as like being funny with Christmas carols and stuff was, I love all that shit.
Yeah, I mean, but I love hearing you in that element, because you're a song, you're a songwriter and a singer as well, and to hear you kind of flex those muscles a bit it's so much fun, and I love your performance in it. I love the song itself, and it's a perfect, because yeah, you said you layered your voice throughout the entire score as well for the choir, so I
Yeah.
think it just fits perfectly within the fabric of the whole experience. So
Yeah, I
but
mean, it was just another hat that I put on. I was doing a Buble impression in one of them, and then like a more sort of, as you say, like Beach Boysy thing, and then more classical stuff, and then yeah, I was just trying to morph my voice into lots of different places because I didn't have the money to record people.
Was recording the choir tricky to do that, like to layer your voice for everything and get those highs and lows and everything? Was that a stressful thing for you?
Um, it's more kind of just laborious. It's like going
Yeah,
because you've
because you're
got to do,
literally piece by piece putting it together, right? Yeah,
and it's the same thing. Like you've
yeah,
got to okay, I'll do the Sopranos now. I've got to do at least 6 to 8 of those, and like try and be a different person
yeah,
for each same the same part. So like, okay, who am I now? I'm the sort of, I'm a very tall lady whose voice is not quite strong, and then I'm someone with a more nasal voice, and then I go stand at the back of the room with the person who's shy, doesn't want to sing. And so I'd like give everyone a character and
yeah.
try and like, because I'm like, I just like doing silly voices and playing the fool. So that part was really fun. But then after a while, when you've got long passages of choir, or you've got these like long carols, you get to the well, I tend to start with the basses and work my way up just for tuning purposes. And you get to the sopranos and you're like, oh Jesus, I've already been like 30 people. I've got to think of another 10 people now. Um, but I think it works. Obviously, you can hear me in there, but it gives the impression of a large choir. And then there's the kind of Norwegian stuff, the sort of uh, pagan element of Santa Claus. So I was doing all that stuff with the drones and the kind of like
Yeah,
chanting men and all that stuff. So I love it.
it's
I love
fun,
it.
man. It was a really
That's why
fun
you asked me
score.
about it. It's wacky, it's crazy, it's silly, it's funny, it's emotional, it's got heart. Um, just like the film.
Yeah,
I'm not going
and
to say anything about it because whenever I say my opinions on a movie, it just gets fucking panned by everyone. So I'm going to keep stum.
screw yeah, screw Rotten Tomatoes, screw critics. I mean,
Honestly, fuck them because it's like, and they get it wrong every time. It's like, oh, the
dude,
critics this,
it's
and
my
then the
biggest pet
audience
peeve.
score is off. It's so frustrating because there are still people that still look at it going, oh, I'm not going to watch that then.
I know they think. I mean, for me, it's just that's why I stopped writing reviews. Remember me? I used to write
Do
reviews, and I
yeah,
quit because I was like, I don't want to be part of this culture because not just in the film music community, but just in film and in art in general and anything that's entertainment, it's all subjective. And yeah, it's fun
yeah,
to discuss things. I love discussing and having opinions and be like, what? Why didn't it work for you? Oh, it didn't work for me because I didn't really connect to that. But sometimes when certain critics get on that pedestal and they feel like they are
oh,
the expert and they just
yeah,
lash out on a movie, and it's just like, that could be somebody's favorite movie. You don't know that. Like it's
right,
like, but to me it's like it's more about having a conversation rather than I'm on my podium speaking my
yeah.
opinion and
I'm
everyone must
speaking the
take it.
truth
Yeah.
about film, and you must listen.
Yeah, I wrote the book on how to make movies and this is
Yeah,
this is it. So
right. Oh, really? Why aren't you making them then? Like, come on,
exactly.
like, seriously. And some of the greatest movies of all time, you look at their critic score, it's like, really?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Home
And then
Alone's in like the 60s or whatever it is, or like,
but it also happens in the past. Like I was just every Halloween I go on a big John Carpenter binge because I love John Carpenter. And
yeah, I know you
you
do,
watch
yeah.
those interviews and he was like, oh yeah, The Thing bombed. It was critically panned. It's my favorite horror film. And it's like at the time when it came out, it had to follow ET, and everyone was it was like a completely different alien than the Spielberg Alien, but everyone hated The Thing. But now it's
Right.
one of the best horror films I've ever made. It's just weird how people consume and discuss and put certain things up, and then how time changes things. It's fascinating too, but it's also frustrating when you have
It is fascinating. The business is
yeah,
fascinating because obviously we're doing art as a business. So
right,
you do have to take these things into account. But it's so funny to like when you go through a whole process on a film and when you're on early enough, you go through the whole preview process.
yeah.
You're basically showing a movie to a bunch of people you don't know and then taking their opinions and putting it into your film, which is like so baffling to me. But
Oh yeah, the
I
focus
get
group
it.
stuff. Yeah,
I get why. I get it. But at the same time, I mean, take ET for example. I think the preview was like this crazy low score, and then it's one of the greatest movies of all time.
yeah.
So, I mean, I'm confused by this whole thing. No, let me rephrase that. I'm learning every single day about this industry and this
We're all
business,
learning. Yeah, and
and
it changes
it's
all the time.
it's changing all the time, and it's
It's changing
fascinating.
right
I
now. I
don't
mean,
always agree with
yeah,
it. Sometimes I agree with it, but I'm rolling with it.
Yeah, we have to. That's the only thing we can do. I mean, but for both of us, we're both working in this field and the ground is just shifting constantly underneath our feet and you just have to
Yeah.
adapt or get left behind, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, at the
Yeah.
end of the day, all you can really do is just put out your best shit,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And even if it's not your best you, if it's the best shit you can do that day, that's all you can do.
Yeah. You can't ask yourself for anything else. That's just like you put your best foot forward and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And then
On to the next one.
well, before we wrap it up, I do want to
Yeah.
just talk some fun stuff. I'm curious, as you know, you're a dad now, and
Mhm.
kids are growing up. What kind of holiday traditions has your family have built so far? Do you guys have any traditions that you do? You hang out with visit family during the holidays?
Well, Thanksgiving is normally Erin's family. It's normally quite small. Well, I say that before COVID, it was big. It was like all of Erin's family at her mum's house, and now we just sort of do it at my house, um, with her mum and dad and brother and the kids, obviously.
Yeah,
In terms of tradition, I mean, we do the around the table. What are we thankful for?
yeah,
Um, which when I first moved here, I was like, oh, for God's sake, you Americans. But now I'm really into it, and I always get very emotional, and I'm always the one crying at the dinner table. Um, and then Christmas, yeah, Christmas is changes. Depends. It depends what we're doing.
yeah,
We tried everyone going over to England a few years ago before the pandemic. That didn't work. It was one of those. It was one of those trips that was just like every fucking thing went wrong. People's shit was nicked in the airport. Greg was coming from my brother-in-law was coming from Europe. His bag got stolen on the train with all the presents in it he was going to give to people.
oh
My
God,
mum got ill, so I couldn't see her. My grandpa, who's now 103, nearly fell and died. Like it was just one of those trips that was just like, get me the fuck home now. I just want to click my fingers. But we're trying it again this Christmas. No, it's just Erin and the boys and myself going over, and we've got a house near my mum and my sister. My dad's gonna come and stay, so we're gonna try a Lewis Christmas, which is very much um just eating, drinking, taking the piss out of each other. Um, I'm really gonna hone in. I have to be careful with my sarcasm when I'm at home because I get accused of being mean
yeah, you gotta
and going
check
and
that
going
that English humor. You gotta reel it back.
yeah. So, but having said that, if Erin's not involved, then we go back to England, and then it's my sister and me just like bah, 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 and then my dad chimes in, my mom chimes in. She loves watching it. She just doesn't want to be a part of it because
Yeah,
she doesn't want to get dragged in to the sort of slightly mean sarcasm of the English. So I'm really looking forward to that because I haven't seen my sister in such a long time, and just the banter. That's normally the Christmas tradition for the
yeah,
Lewises. It's like taking a piss all the time. So I miss. I really
yeah,
do miss it because I just get accused of being horrible and mean. Not necessarily by any native of California. I'm like, yeah. Why are you being so mean? No, no, it's a joke. It's not funny. All right. I'll rein it in then.
well, that's perfect. Sorry I asked about the holidays. Seems like I uncovered some wounds, but
Little bit. Well, yeah, the Christmas has always been till I married Erin, till I met Erin and married Erin. Christmas has always been a little bit dark for me. Coming from a broken home or whatever. My parents went together, so it was always a bit of like
yeah,
a who's having the kids this year when we were younger, and it was always like a bit. It's just like Um, but then I got with Erin, and that's such a like a different vibe, like magical
yeah,
Christmas of family, and I fell in love with it again.
absolutely.
No, I've done 2 movies on the trot, and I'm out of love with it at the moment.
Don't worry, it's coming again. It's coming again next year.
Coming.
It's coming. You got to get you got to get Christmas shopping done. You got a few weeks left, and then you have to restart all again next year.
Erin's been amazing though, because normally day after Halloween, in the car, in the house, the carols are going, the songs are going.
Yeah,
She's been I'm very proud of her. She's been very restrained, and she hasn't put any on yet.
Well, when she does, you just
It's been
throw.
me actually. It's been me
Yeah.
like checking mixes and doing like Christmas stuff. So I thought you were done with Christmas. I'm all this. I'm gonna do this for work.
Well, December 26th, you just put on Santa Claus has had enough for Christmas, and then it's
Yeah,
over. You could get.
and then we wait another 11 months. Well, 10, really, isn't it? People get going.
Well, Dom, thank you so much for your insight again, as always, for
Oh,
taking
thanks,
us and
Dominic.
bringing us, pushing the holiday spirit into us, bringing us up, and then pulling it back down at the end. But no, I'm just kidding.
Well, I apologize to all your viewers and subscribers for having to look at my stupid face and listen to me waffle on about stuff again. But
Not at all.
it's basically just an excuse for two mates to have a chat. So
Exactly.
there we go.
Then we just record it and throw it up
We
on this
record it and
website.
make people watch it.